Webster Tarpley is the Liberty Freedom Movement's Leonardo da Vinci. And we are always glad to have him. Okay, Webster, in the time I got left with you, and it's clear we'll have to do a part 2 coming up soon on this. This Ecoscience, Population, Resources, Environment, I've now scanned through most of the 1,100 pages. You went to the library. You got a hard copy as well. For the first 2 weeks I was researching and I was reading an online PDF, but there's even more in the actual book. Forced sterilization of the population, CPS taking all children at birth by the end of it, raising them in dormitories, kind of the eugenics view they implemented in China under treaties, under State Department Memorandum 200, forced drugging of the population in the water, sterilizing the majority of the population, deciding who can breed, total control through an environmental eugenical tyranny. Now, I've read State Department memorandums in the Population Commission from the British, and I've read the 1996 United Nations Biological Diversity Assessment. Everything in this book is in all those documents in pieces. Club of Rome documents, Endgame covers a lot of that. But this is a compendium or a Rosetta Stone of evil. You've had a chance to go over it now since last week. I dispatched a crew there to interview you again to integrate that into the new Obama film. You, of course, are the centerpiece of the Obama deception, one of the main voices. You are also, out of the 18 people we've interviewed, one of the main players or quarterback. We can say I'm quarterbacking, but you're kind of what's another important person you give the ball to here?
The wingback.
I'm sure, or a running back or something. The point is, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job in the Obama deception. But break this down, because were you as shocked by this blasphemous document as I was? And what's your view? Because to me, they've implemented much of what's in this book written by the White House science czar.
How much time do we have on this, Alex?
We have T-minus 25 minutes.
Okay, wonderful. Well, first of all, I wasn't shocked. I had met some of these people at the United Nations Food Conference in Rome in November of 1974. So that means 35 years ago this year. And for actually just arguing with these people and putting out a few leaflets, I was officially thrown out of the United Nations Food Conference for disrupting it, even though the only thing I wanted to do was to point out that these people were charlatans. So this is the world of Paul Ehrlich, Rene Dumont, Barbara Ward, Rachel Carson. It's sort of this 70s to 80s generation of environmentalist fanatics, absolute kooks, and genocidalists, because that's what they are. And they are, as they call themselves, neo-Malthusian. They go with Parson Malthus, who made this idiotic claim that population grows faster than food. That's not what you see. And even before Malthus died, he had to take it back, that he had been completely wrong. So the book that I've got is it's almost 1,100 pages. It's a compendium of all the lunacy that they had put together. I've got the edition from 1977, which I believe is the third edition. So it's written by Paul Ehrlich, Ann Ehrlich, and John P. Holdren. So
yes,
Paul
that's
Ehrlich,
the one I have. We have it right here on TV for people right now.
Okay, so Paul Ehrlich, Stanford University, his wife Ann, and then John P. Holdren. Let's get to Holdren in a minute, because John P. Holdren is the powerful official White House science and technology advisor, special assistant to the president. He presides over a big office in the new executive office building, a little bit separate from the White House compound. But he's over there. He's the head of the White House Science and Technology Office, and indeed chairs the White House Council on Science and Technology. It's a very important position. And the fact that we have to face is that a proponent of genocide now occupies this post. He is an absolute Malthusian fanatic. Of course, he's a pessimist, and I think you can call him a totalitarian liberal. This is usually applied to Keynes, but I
call him a piranha-like control freak. I mean, no. I mean a psychopath, a psychopathic sadist, obsessive-compulsive, anal retentive nut job with delusions of grandeur now acting upon them.
Well, yes, I think he qualifies for all that. Now, let me just give you his worldview when we get to some of the specific stuff. He starts with this Paul Ehrlich. Now, Ehrlich had written The Population Bomb in 1968, saying the world is going to be destroyed because there are too many people. Now, we know the oligarchy has been arguing that the world is overpopulated since about 1000 BC that we know of. Remember, they say that the reason for the Trojan War was that there were too many people, too many humans pressing down on the breast of Mother Earth. So therefore, you had to have 10 years of war, which killed everybody off. It is the eternal point of view of the oligarchy, and especially this finance oligarchy that we have today. So it's also worth noting that Ehrlich is a total crackpot and charlatan. He says there's a population bomb. Well, what do you see today, right, 40 years later? The population in Europe is falling. The population in Japan is falling. Population in Russia is falling. Population in the U.S. would be falling if it weren't for immigration. And then you look at the
yeah, he said there'd be 12 billion right now. We'd all be starving to death. Instead, it's 6.8 billion, and the population is now planing
right. It's leveling off.
And the West is dying. The West is dying.
The West is precisely dying. Dying of pessimism. Dying from cultural pessimism.
Dying of these people running things. A lack of the human spirit. A lack of creativity. A lack of life force. These people detest everything good and wholesome that the species is.
Yeah,
they are nihilistic criminals. Go ahead.
In this book, this is expressed by Holdren, and when I say Holdren now, I mean Ehrlich, and Holdren. Holdren says, we don't like this moonshot mentality that the Americans seem to have. The American moonshot mentality for these lunatics is everything evil. In other words, it's the argument that says, well, if you can go to the moon, you can solve these other problems. And I think this is the essence of the scientific optimism, the technological optimism, the can-do production spirit that has animated the United States, which these finance oligarchs hate so much. So they target the moonshot mentality. They don't like growthsmanship, they call it. They call the idea that you can produce your way out of a crisis, they call cornucopianism, that you believe in an internal cornucopia. But let's get down to it. The main thesis is that overpopulation is the source of everything. Pollution comes from people, right? People pollute. That's the argument by Ehrlich in the population.
And that's why they list carbon dioxide that we put off 2.5 pounds of a day as deadly poison, even though plants breathe it, to make us bad. Club of Rome admit, I'm sure you've seen the document written in 92, that they picked that to make it about us being bad, to make us internalize we're bad, so the state can direct a war against humanity.
Yes, but it's being done, of course, in the name of this financier oligarchy, right? It's that they've taken over the state through these different things.
Look at Henry Paulson. He's one of them in his own writing.
Absolutely. He's an environmentalist activist. That's a very, very good point. That guy is green as they come. So you see the financier and the green go together. Now, Ehrlich, therefore, is completely discredited. So all the problems come from population. Now, sometimes when you do biography, you look at the women. The women in somebody's life are often the key to what they really think. We see this with Obama. But in the case of John P. Holdren, his wife, Cheryl Holdren, is a researcher in her own right. And I have another book by Holdren, edited by Holdren and Ehrlich, which is called the Cassandra Conference. It's from the end of the Reagan era, about 1988. In the Cassandra Conference, which is it's like a symposium, and they put together articles, Cheryl Holdren has an essay where she praises to the skies Rachel Carson. All right, Rachel Carson, Silent Spring, 1962. This is the idea that DDT is going to kill all the animal life and plant life, the birds and the insects of the world, and therefore DDT has to be banned. If you wanted to say the biggest genocidalist action of the past 30 to 40 years, it's probably banning DDT, because this has led to tens of millions and very likely hundreds of millions of deaths in sub-Saharan Africa.
And I've seen the reports, Webster, but I mean, Webster, you're most up on this. I don't have them in front of me. Is it true, because I've seen some of the scientific reports, that was a hoax and DDT wasn't hurting the animals?
I think it's certainly a wild exaggeration of what these dangers might be. And then again, you've also got to, what's your value system? The advocacy of genocide is a Nuremberg crime, even if you say, well, this is being done in the name of the sparrows and the hummingbirds and the spotted owls and the...
Yeah, it's killed hundreds of millions because they admit it kills 15 million a year from malaria because they've stopped using DDT.
And that's over now 30 to 40 years. I think it's actually, the heyday of this stuff was in the early 70s. So, the other thing, of course, is that this character, Holdren, believes that the world is overpopulated. How much overpopulated? Now, it's a textbook, so he's citing different people, but you can see pretty much what he agrees with. He and the co-authors say, the optimum population of the world is 1 billion. Well, in 1977, the population of the world was 4 billion. So that meant that there were already 3 billion excess, useless eaters, people that had to be culled somehow at the time that Holdren was writing.